Okay, we're ready to go.
All right, welcome everyone. Today's Monday, May 17th, 2021. Here for the Orange Township regular trustee meeting. Call this meeting to order. Ms. Kraft, if you could please call roll.
Mr. Grumbles,
Here. Welcome everyone. Today's Monday, May 17th, 2021. Here for the Orange Township.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I'm going to try that again. Mr. Grumbles,
Here.
Ms. Taranto,
Here.
Mr. Rivers.
Here.
Right. Ms. Kraft, can you confirm the resolution number, please, that we're on?
We're on 161.
Okay. We're going to start today by entering into executive session. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-161, correct?
Yes.
Enter into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Abstain.
Mr. Grumbles, who are you inviting?
Right. Trustee Taranto, Trustee Rivers, and Fiscal Officer Kraft.
And yourself?
Correct.
Hey Val, I don't know if you want the executive slide up, but it's not up as of now. Thank you.
Brian, I apologize. You missed you. We're gonna get you in there.
Okay.
You'll see.
Brian,
You'll see a breakout room that you go into the room. Okay.
Okay.
Brian, I believe I need to return to regular session, correct? And then do another executive?
Well, I guess you wouldn't need to do another executive, but you might say you were including me as well. And I'm sorry, I meant to try and chime in real quick, but I was trying to unmute myself and I couldn't get it quick enough.
We're going to return to executive session under resolution 21-161. Trustee Rivers, Trustee Taranto, Trustee Grumbles, Fiscal Officer Kraft, and legal counsel Brian Zetz are invited. Recreate a breakout room. Apologize for that.
You should be able to stay in the same one. I just added Brian to it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to
We all have
invite. You'll have to invite us back in.
Yeah, Val, because everybody got out of it, I think you have to end the room and then create a new one. Fun fact we learned on Zoom, you can add people to breakouts if you forget them now. So, but I think that's going to be the easiest. Let me know if you're having trouble with that.
all in there.
Okay.
Actually, Michelle, I don't think I am. I like had my own breakout room and then it said I was gonna be leaving in like 40 seconds.
Yeah, I don't see it. There's no breakout room to join yet.
Right.
There we go.
All right, I'll join it too.
Okay.
All right. Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-162 to return to regular session.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Triento,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
All right, while in executive session, we discussed the township administrator position and take a few courses of action here in the public meeting. The first resolution is to authorize the posting of the township administrator position. Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-163, authorizing and directing the acting township administrator or her designee to post a request for resumes for the position of township administrator.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles? Was that Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Ms. Triento,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Abstain.
Second resolution is to approve and appoint a acting township administrator. Trustee Taranto, would you like to say anything or take any action since we haven't discussed openly?
Yes, it was, I've certainly enjoyed the role. However, running a business and some family matters, it's not something I can truly dedicate full-time hours to. And I know that we have someone within the staff that would be fully capable of handling it. So I had recommended Miss Bonnie. But I do want to state, especially to Val, how much she has helped me and helped me just navigate the last few weeks. And I really do appreciate how hard she's worked and the time she's put in. So thank you for that, Val.
I'd like to add, Michelle, Bonnie's a fantastic staff member for us and has done a wonderful job. And I can't appreciate how valuable she is to the team. But I know there were some projects and different things that she was working on, including our zoning rewrite. So I wanted to ask her, I just want to make sure, is this fair to her? And with the projects and things she was working on, is this going to push those back? Is this a manageable, workload? And does it make sense for her?
In our discussions, she felt like she could manage. Her staff would have to pick up some of it a little bit, but Mr. Baird is certainly capable. And she does have a full staff to assist her. So she felt like she could do both jobs.
Michelle, do you have any concerns with this role?
Well, to Trustee Rivers' point, the zoning resolution rewrite is a huge project, and I would like to, if I were to, if the board accepted this interim position, I would like to postpone at least kicking that off. I think we can still continue selecting the consultant and negotiating the contract now, but I wouldn't want to start the meetings until we had a new township administrator in place.
Probably makes sense anyway.
That's a passion of mine. I really want to be fully involved with that. So this will be a big challenge and task to take. So I want to prioritize getting through what the administrator needs at this point and focusing on that big project when we can.
Michelle, do you think for a project of that magnitude, it would make sense to have a formal administrator anyway, I guess is what I was trying to ask? Or do you think that that's not kind of like with the parks master plan and having the director hired into the parks role? I think that makes sense. In this case, I know you're the zoning director, but since it's a big endeavor, would it make sense to have an administrator there kind of to help navigate through that and with imagine the outreach and kind of some of the other components of that?
I would say so. Yes, I think the administrator would be an advocate and support for me, especially to make sure the information is relayed to the trustees as far as updates go. I mean, ultimately, this project will be led by the zoning commission, and I'm more of a project manager at that point. But the administrator would be definitely helpful.
Okay. I agree that I don't want to put any meaningful projects on hold. But I personally think that because of the impact of zoning, and I think we also have some potential zoning work that we need to go back. I spoke with our zoning council and received some clarity last Thursday evening, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few things that we have discussed that I think it warrants a revisit for past efforts as well. So I would hope that, or I would think that having, for something of that magnitude, a full staff and administrative staff and leadership roles filled would be pertinent. In this case, I think it's nice that you're going to be, assuming you're okay with everything proposed, both. So it gives a good opportunity for you as well. So I'm hearing you say you're okay with this proposal, and
Yes, I did discuss it with Trustee Taranto, but prior to this meeting, and I am accepting the challenge.
okay. Right. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-164, approving the designation of Michelle Bonney to serve as the acting township administrator. The date of effect would be May 19th. That's it.
I think you need to say the compensation.
Okay. Well, it's written down below. I didn't know if I needed to read through it.
Okay. That's fine.
Approving the designation of Michelle Bonney to serve as the acting township administrator, the additional pay of $2,211.54 in additional pay per pay period beginning May 19th, 2021.
Second?
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if I can just add something, Trustee Grumbles, I just want to say to the board, thank you for this opportunity. This will be an experience for me, and I do have future aspirations, and I really hope we can get by these next few months, and I'll be happy to help with the communication and transparency throughout it. So thank you again.
Great, thank you.
Right. Returning to the regular agenda now. Are there any proposed agenda changes?
Under operations where we have pool discussion, I think we should just talk about June 2nd and the governor and opening in general, as far as the shelters, the work from home, trustee meetings. I think we should just kind of cover all of that and not just the pool.
Okay. So do you want to move the administration?
Well, I will tell you, I apologize. Val did, under administrative report, under 8C, she did have reopening township offices. So we actually can talk about that there.
Okay. And so, Silas, are you okay if we bring the pool underneath that and discuss it all in one swoop there?
Yep, that's fine with me.
Okay.
There was 2 items I asked to be on tonight's agenda, the Franklin Street crossing. Are we going to have a meeting for that, or is that, where does that stand?
Spoke to the residents, and we all received an email from Mr. Betts today. I do think that if a meeting, I got a message from the residents that were concerned, and they were fine with not having a meeting pending that the decision would stay. And based on Mr. Bett's email, I'm still not clear on.
He did tell me that there were hearings open to the public. They were held in Delaware City. As part of this process, he did say it was before his time. I think that's when things were at Puco with the lawsuit.
Well, I know in the past we had hearings. I attended one of them. And I'm fine with that because it's a specific discussion and because of the amount of interest and the concern. I felt that it was appropriate to have a special meeting, which I'm fine having still. I mentioned that at our prior board meeting, and allowing residents to share their concern. And the only thing I asked for at the same meeting was clarity from Mr. Betts on ensuring we execute that properly, given the legal proceedings that have already taken place. And then also what, if any, options are in place, just so we can be transparent and inform the folks that are concerned. I know that a hearing and notification was requested back in February. It didn't come to fruition, so
I
I'm
did,
fine.
I did have an email to Mr. King before all three of us voted yes on allowing him to negotiate, asking him to reach out to all of them so that they knew, and I don't believe he did that. And then I asked him again during that meeting, and unfortunately, I just don't think he did that.
It's okay. It's over now. So we can set up a special meeting. I know this week we have a zoning hearing. I'm fine doing one next week if the rest of the board is. We can have a special meeting in the evening for, however long it takes. If there's a preferred date that works for the board, I'm happy to make a note of that now, and we can schedule that.
I believe there's a 7-day window before June 1st of the hearing of closing comments. So from what I understand, it should be scheduled prior to 7 days before June 1st.
And did you discuss this with Mr. Betts? Because he's been in contact with the powers that are having us, the legislation, and this wasn't part of a discussion I had with him, or that
Yes, I spoke with him.
And what did he say?
He understood, and if we wanted to have a meeting, he would, he said tonight he had a potential conflict, but would do his best if we had it tonight. If we wanted to have it another date, then he'd be happy to attend.
So we have, I believe, the special meeting on the 19th. We could do the 21st, 24th, or 25th and still come in 7 days before. If we did it the 24th, we'd still have one business day if there's any action needed. Or we could do it the 21st, and that way we have 2 business days. Or the 20th, I'm indifferent. What's the best day for the board?
I'm fine with the 21st or the 24th.
Trustee Taranto?
Unfortunately, being a Friday and then the last week of school, I am unavailable both of those.
21st and the 24th?
I am unavailable the entire week of the 24th.
Okay.
So if you two would like to do it, you're welcome to. I just would not be able to attend.
Then is the 20th better?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm fine doing it on the 21st then.
I'm
At
fine with
6.
that.
6 PM. That time okay?
Now the staff, that's, you're going into their weekend. Do you need any of the staff there?
I don't believe we do. I think we would just need to have, we can notify Chris Betts. He can attend and help advise the residents, and the board. And then,
And the 24th is a holiday too.
okay. 21st is,
What holiday is that?
24th isn't the holiday, the 31st is the
Oh, I'm sorry,
holiday.
I was looking at it wrong. Yeah.
so the 21st at 6 PM, we'll set a special meeting. Val, if you could make note of that action item. It'll just be for one topic right now, the railroad hearing. I know there was another agenda topic about, request about Columbus United that predates this year, predates the request. Going back to earlier this year, we had discussed this in public session multiple times, and there's dozens of emails that have been provided to the board, both from a prior administrator and our prior operations director. There was accusations that the scheduling was done improperly or unfairly or disproportionately, however you want to phrase it. I believe before transitioning, Mr. Cowan provided a note and we approved a resolution that gave them equal hours as the other clubs. I think that the complaint, as I understood it, was that it wasn't their ideal hours, and that allocations were done before all the requests were made. However, I don't know that on any given year we would ever have a means to determine that every single person who desired to rent the facility was represented prior to allocating field use. I know this year we had a late request for baseball field use that came in, for example. And so I think that that's a continual issue. I know the prosecutor's office was consulted on this specific matter. The contracts have already been signed for the year. Mr. King sent a note out accordingly stating that, and that, and advised me not to, confirm or agree to anything. I had very minimal interaction or email correspondence with the representatives from the entity. There was a threat of legal action that was made as well. And at that point, Bill worked with Mr. King and Mr. Betts, and I was pretty much hands off. But as it stands, the fields are allocated, there's contracts signed. There was some late concern over cricket use and refunds that were disproportionate during COVID. I do know that the cricket organization's canceled, and I do know that residents are playing cricket above and beyond specific organizations and entities, not necessarily being organized, no different than a pickup game of soccer or basketball at our other facilities, or even baseball. So, if there's specific concerns above and beyond that, we have a new operations director. We can bring him up to speed on this. I'm sure he has access to the prior dialogue, and start talking with the folks handling the master plan, as this was one of the topics that we were going to ask them for support with, and allow our new operations director to do his job and assist here. I don't think it's a matter that, given what we've discussed in multiple meetings and what's been discussed via email, we need to have a public session discussion over. I think that it's been well vetted and discussed with all the board via email, with our prior administrator, with our prior ops director, and with our legal counsel. So, Mr. Bowers, if there's further concern, I'm not sure that the folks from this specific soccer club have your contact information, but we can provide that to them. And I would allow you to engage and do what you're here to do. Confident in your ability to lead.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing further, since we have no items on the consent agenda other than the record of proceedings, I'm just going to make the resolution the actual record of proceedings, and that's it. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-165, approving the electronic record of the proceedings from the regular meeting held on May 3rd, 2021, and special meeting held on May 10th, 2021.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
To our development and zoning report, Ms. Bonnie.
Okay, yes, I will go over the zoning report. Val, if you can bring that up, the meetings report. So this coming Wednesday, May 19th at 6 p.m., the trustees do have a hearing for zoning application number zone-21-01 for the North Farms condominium. And our legal counsel will be present for that. Thursday, May 20th at 6 p.m., we do have four BZA applications. 3 are in regards to a swimming pool, and 1 is in regards to an area variance for a setback encroachment for a garage that I discussed previously at the last meeting. Following that, on Wednesday, June 2nd, the trustees have a zoning hearing for application number zone-21-02, and that is for the independent living at South Old State. The notices just went out for that today. Following that, another trustee hearing on Monday, June 7th. This will be the second hearing for the Route 23 application 21-01, and that is for Sheets. We are expecting a revised submittal from them by the end of this month, and that'll be shared with you all. We've also inquired our legal counsel to be involved with this application too. And the last item I have on the zoning report is for rezoning application number zone-21-03. That is the McGreedy single family plan residential project off of South Old State. And I think following that, I'd ask you all to schedule the hearing for that. We do have a pretty busy zoning hearing agendas coming up. So if you want to, this one should be fairly simple. So if the board would want to consider it at their second meeting in June, since the first one is booked for Sheets, I think we could work with that.
So Michelle, did you propose that we just have this one at a regular board meeting?
I think so. We had one individual with concerns, and I believe that was his comments were addressed.
Okay, so June 21st.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else that you have to share, Michelle?
Not as far as the meetings report goes.
Okay. Motion to approve resolution 21-166, schedule a hearing for zoning application 21-03, Plan 4 Land LLC for the June 21st, 2021 regular Board of Trustees meeting.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
The next 2 items under the zoning report kind of go hand in hand. As discussed at the last regular board trustee meeting, I did receive consensus to move forward with hiring Brett Wimkin as our full-time zoning inspector position. So there's 2 resolutions, one to offer his resignation as an intern, and then the second one would to be appoint him at the full-time position. If the board has any questions, I'm here to answer.
Do you have the compensation and everything all settled?
Yes, I have discussed this with Brett prior to this meeting, and I just worked. We had to clean up the resolution a little bit with Fiscal Officer Lisa Kraft, and I think everything's ready.
Okay, I didn't see anything in the. Okay, now I see it. Sorry, I wanted to make sure it's in there. Okay. Sorry about that. Any questions from the board on either?
I do not.
Okay. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-167, accepting the resignation of Brett Wimkin. Is that right?
Wimkin, yep.
Wemkin as planning and zoning intern.
Second.
Mr. Grumbles? Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Ms. Tranto?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve resolution 21-168, appointment to full-time position of zoning inspector and establishment of compensation.
Second.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Ms. Tranto?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I know we had, next on the agenda, we had operations and fire. And we were going to discuss the operations point later in the agenda. So with that, we'll move to the fiscal officer report. Ms. Kraft.
Okay, so just a few things to report on. I emailed to the board the April 2021 financial report that was distributed on May 6th. Ending cash balance is $27,928,448.33. Investment mix hasn't changed from month over month. And our expenses, which are about to go up a lot with our Orange Township or Orange Road discussion that the Silas will be asking for. But right now they're 4.2 million through April 30th, and our tax revenue through April 30th is 7.7 million. Our Delaware County Foundation balance as of April 30th is $38,506.04. That is for the Veterans Memorial, and that is a decrease of $125 from the fourth quarter. So our normal quarterly charges on that. And thanks everybody for coming in and signing the financial reports already. So the first thing we have on here is a resolution for the credit cards for Val, for Silas, and for Chief McNeil. So if you'll remember when this process was approved back, I want to say it was August of last year, the way the resolution was written is all we would need to do is submit a revised Exhibit D, which lists all the credit card holders. So that's what we've done. And Val wants to arrow down. You'll see the three of them added at the bottom. So that is the first resolution on the agenda for fiscal tonight. Next, I'd like to talk about the annual liquor license renewal process. I've sent you the email with all the liquor license holders for Orange Township. As a reminder, once a year, we have an opportunity to say if there's a problem property that we don't want to renew a liquor permit for some reason. This is the township's chance to object. If you do not want to object, then we just delete all of this and we don't have to do anything else. But I guess I would ask the board, are there any properties that anybody would like to object to renewing the license permit at this time?
I do not.
I don't. No issues.
I have none.
Thank you. Okay, so then we'll strike that resolution from the journal. According to Mr. Betts, we do not have to do anything then if we are not objecting. Silas is going to talk a little bit about the Parks Master Plan, but he and I met last week and had a great discussion on the handoff there. So I'll let him talk about that. And then I'd mentioned to Trustee Taranto when she was in today about the tax levies. And I did send you each an email late this afternoon with kind of the breakout of the tax levies. And I'm trying to, I left Sherry a message earlier today over in the county auditor's office to try to understand if the normal practice is to put those on the ballot the year they expire or the year we stop collecting. So we have 3 levies that expire this year, but we continue to collect them through 2022. So if we put them on if we put them on this year, we would say we would start collecting, you know, we would word it so that it would start collecting in 2022, and, you know, and move that forward that way. If we don't want to put them on the ballot this year, then the only risk is that if they don't for some reason pass in 2022, it's only 45 days until we're no longer collecting that revenue. So I'm putting it in front of the board now. If we are going to put it on the ballot for November, it does need to be certified by August 4th, I think is the date that I put in that email. So I'd like if everybody could take a couple minutes over the course of the next couple of days to start looking at that. And I don't know if we want to have this as an agenda item on the next meeting to publicly discuss kind of what everybody's thoughts are. And by then, hopefully I've gotten a little bit more feedback from the auditor's office on what they recommend. Any questions on that? Any concerns?
I think historically, we had the fire one year and the parks and roads on another year. Don't quote me on that, but I think that we also have some concerns in that the parks money, a lot of it was to have been spent by now and it has not. So that's something that we need to consider moving forward with that levy.
I think we need to look at all of our levies and scrutinize them pretty carefully because, with parks and fire, I know that we have sufficient funding. So I think we need to work with Chief McNeil and look at projections. I think we need to look at parks and look at potential expenses there, and not just assets or one-time costs, but also the sustainment stuff, kind of like when we talked about the plow truck and Mr. James shared that every 10 years we're going to have to replace, we have to replace them due to salt damage and just normal wear and tear. They don't hold up longer than 10, 12 years or whatever it was. We need to get a pretty firm grasp on our financial projections for both of those. And I know that both current and former fiscal officers have looked and spoken on concern over road funding. And so in my mind anyway, ideally, we don't want to lose the offset of a renewal levy that we would still obtain if we don't change anything from the state. At the same time, I just want to understand the full millage impact, financial impact. The township's grown a bit, as it always does. And so I think we just need to get a good financial rundown. I know Mr. Keitza had come on site previously to discuss, and we need to dig in and really, really understand the numbers here because, if we can offset one or two and, add to the other, or if there's a different levy that would allow us to maintain 3, the current roads levy is more for maintenance from a repavement standpoint. Do we want to think about a fourth levy that is strictly for new construction and then scale back, the others accordingly or what have you? I just think we need to look at our options.
August 4th is the deadline to have the initial paperwork in. So just FYI, as far as reviewing all of that and knowing what we're going to do, August 4th is the deadline. We tend to like it to have it in earlier in case there's any mistakes or issues.
Yeah, but I do think we need to go after it this go around. And if we fail, that gives us time to prepare and get it submitted or, accordingly.
Mr. Rivers, any thoughts?
There's obviously a lot there to digest, and we'll have to go through it and figure out what's the best path forward.
Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and move forward with continuing my discussions with the auditor's office. If anybody on the board has some specific things they'd like me to look into, some possible options, but I'll kind of run through my numbers with the auditors and see the impact of renewals versus additions or new levies. So renewals traditionally are easier to bear because taxpayers, we're used to that amount. It's not a change or a surprise. So those are typically, from what I understand, easier to from a voter standpoint. So just things that we'll have to, you guys will have to consider as we go down this path. So I'll go ahead and continue to gather some more information over the course of the next week and have that ready for our next meeting. And then I'll continue to send emails as I get updated information. Then one other thing as it relates to taxes. So I received a letter from an audit from the city of Columbus. They use an outside firm to audit their BMV taxes to make sure that the local permissive tax as well as the license tax, that the right taxing district has received it. This is the first time I've seen this since my term of office here. The total that they're saying has been overpaid to Orange Township is a total of $18,570.28. So, Mr. Bowers, that would directly affect your area and the tune of that amount of revenue coming out. I did call and talk to the director at the BMV to kind of talk through this and understanding, how this is taxed, how the tax district works, and did sample quite a few. I mean, this report is thick. So I did sample a lot of the addresses, and according to the logic from Ms. Knight at the BMV, they are doing it correct. The audit is correct. So I want to just give you guys a heads up that refund but that offset against future payments will be happening. So I did also call another township and ask them, and they said they routinely get these. So they weren't surprised at all that I had this. So any questions on that? If anybody wants more information on it, I'm happy to email it over.
Nothing on that, Ms. Kraft, but I think going back to the levy discussion, we really need to work internally in addition to externally. Take a look at our millage and what the value of each mill is. So we'll need to sit down with Chief McNeil, Mr. Bowers, and really understand projections. Not just current state, because current state, for example, for the resurfacing isn't sufficient. So we might want to take into account all those things, along with the road projects that aren't started yet that we know are on the horizon, and the dollar threshold that is projected for those. And that's it.
Okay. All right, well then I guess it's just back to the resolution for the credit cards.
All right. I did not see that on my version, so I apologize.
It's actually it'll be resolution 169. She's got it up on the screen if you can see.
Yep.
it. Okay.
I've got that. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-169, authorize the fiscal office to obtain a credit card to First Commonwealth Bank for office manager, director of operations, and fire chief.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Tranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kraft, the only thing I would say with that is we had discussed previously last year the goal of migrating to a kind of a central procurement, and that was there was a position created for that. So at some point, as we get the Dude Solution software functioning and integrated with our staffing changes and so forth, that's still a goal I'd love to see happen. Just bringing that up in the meeting publicly. All right. Administrative report. Ms. Taranto.
So as has happened in the past with Evans Farm, we did a special improvement district, energy. It was called PACE. And they're doing additional districts. I've provided all the backup information to you. Chris Betts had handled this for us. Everything is really the same as last time, only under a different name. Did anybody have any questions after you reviewed it? Energy Project Cooperative Agreement.
I did not believe there's, what, 3 resolutions associated with that?
Yes.
I do not.
Okay. Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-170, approving a petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a plan for public improvements, and approving the necessity of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the township in cooperation with the Delaware County Regional Energy Special Improvement District.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Tranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-171, determining to proceed with the acquisition, construction, and improvement of certain public improvements in Orange Township in cooperation with the Delaware County Regional Energy Special Improvement District.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Tranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-172, levying special assessments for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in Orange Township in cooperation with the Delaware County Regional Energy Special Improvements District, authorizing and approving a cooperative agreement providing for the financing of a special energy improvement project in Orange Township, and authorizing and approving a special assessment agreement.
Second,
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Tranto,
yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Right. We handled the administrator posting prior, so that brings us up to the reopening pool, shelters, et cetera discussion.
Yes, let's start with the pool. It's the most impactful. We all heard Governor DeWine was going to lift the mask mandate as of June 2nd. And then the CDC came out the next day with the President of the United States lifting it immediately. And then the next day, Governor DeWine followed suit. He followed the recommendations of the CDC. I reached out to our health commissioner Sheila Hiddleston and asked her if she read that as of June 2nd, everything lifts and we would not need to have all those requirements at the pool. And she said she understood it the same way. All of the health orders are still in effect except the mask until June 2nd, though. So we would want to discuss the opening of the pool, what happens on June 2nd. And I thought maybe Silas, you might want to weigh in on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely kind of goofy timing, to say the least, to be opening on Friday of this week and then 2.5 weeks later, essentially opening that day under a different set of rules that we'll be following for the first 2.5 weeks. So it does present some issues. Thankfully, Mary Ann, Mike, some of the others involved are well prepared for all the recommendations, guidelines, restrictions that have been in place for a while here as far as what's going to happen this Friday. I also spoke with the health department and talked specifically about pools with some of their aquatic professionals. And, you know, it sounds like a lot of the entities are going to post the signs, do things the right way, maybe not be as strict as things were, you know, a month or two ago. So I kind of think that may be the norm going forward here to get through until that June 2nd date. One of the things we'll face is getting our pool, all of our pool furniture out, you know, trying to get back to what normal operations are with a limited staff size. So, you know, one of my recommendations would be to maybe consider phasing that in over a couple of days, kind of walking before we run all the way back into full-blown operations on June 2nd. But from our standpoint with the staff, you know, I think we're going to be well prepared for it. And I think everything's laid out pretty well right now for us to move forward on June 2nd. Barring any future surprises or announcements by the government.
So you're saying we would still stick with the reservation time slots up to June 2nd or even after?
Just up till June 2nd. You know, the guidelines that are in place don't allow any wiggle room between now and then. So with all that being in place, it doesn't create any extra work on our end right now. It'll just kind of be a temporary measure until all the restrictions and guidelines are officially lifted on that June 2nd date. So, you know, going against the governor's orders and jumping ahead of the gun, I don't know if there's COVID police out there watching all the pools and everything right now, but we certainly aren't looking to create any waves, so to speak, or you know, get any problems on our lap. It's a short time. I think the biggest impact will be Memorial Day weekend, which is when every other pool and aquatic facility tends to open. So I think we're all going to be swimming in the same boat here, so to speak, for, you know, a short period of time until the magical date of June 2nd comes.
So basically, we don't have to worry about masks immediately, but we'll follow all the guidelines that are out there as far as distancing, the limited amount of people at the pool, and do reservations up until June 2nd.
Correct. And the one thing you will see is a very healthy amount of COVID-related signage. I'm sure everybody's getting excited to not see anymore every time you walk into a store. But the pool will be littered with a lot of COVID-related signage, which again, temporary till June 2nd. One of the, again, these are all recommendations. I don't know if they're mandates since they're not necessarily enforceable, but masks while you're walking in and while you're walking out of the pool facility are technically still recommended. Again, enforcement is one thing, but those are some of the small things that you're going to see for a couple of weeks, and then hopefully they all go away and we can get back to having a normal pool season.
So a couple of things. We actually had the health director on the call, and she made it clear that they're recommendations. There's not an enforcement component, and if you will, or, you know, but to your point, don't really want to create a problem and have a bunch of complaints filed. That was the catalyst for them coming back on site and actually starting to, you know, evaluate us and potentially cause issue would be, you know, per received complaints. With the masks being, you know, taken off, I don't see a point really even mentioning masks, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think it's going to be more of a hassle, and it's the one place that people will know they can go and not deal with masks. As far as the furniture, we actually had a pretty big debate, Silas, before you with the previous director. We had a on-site pool meeting in March, and I don't know that anyone else was totally catching on, but the quote unquote sanitizing solution is pool water. And I said that, and it offended a few folks that I called the sanitation solution pool water. But I got pretty technical in the meeting and asked what the parts per million in chlorine in the pool and the sanitation solution were, and they're exactly the same. So the play structure is doused in sanitation solution. The slides are covered in it, and anyone that touches the pool is covered in it. So as opposed to having all the restrictions in place, one of the potential alternatives that I came to think of was based on our health director saying that it's not a touch or a contact unless you're around someone for 15 minutes or whatever it was. It was an extended period. If we just request that people jump in the pool periodically, then they can sanitize themselves that way and ensure that if they've touched any furniture or they've touched any surfaces, it's all better now. I wanted to propose that just because I, from a logic standpoint, struggled in our discussion on site back in March with the fact that we're spraying pool water on everything. And that was suffice. I just really struggled with that. So I'm open for feedback on that, but I think we would be fine. The other question I would have for you, sir, is how many pool passes have been purchased? Do you have that number?
We were at 1436 on Friday, and Mary said there was another big rush over the weekend. I didn't have that exact number, but I believe it was somewhere in the 75 range. So we're somewhere in the 1500 neck of the woods.
Okay.
Silas, just that's not individual family memberships, that's total members. So
That was the total number, yes.
yeah, I
Okay.
can pull the numbers while we sit here if anybody wants it.
What's that?
I can pull those numbers while we sit here if anybody needs them.
No, I think that's close enough. We can just say 1500. The reason I asked is that with a limit of, 400 people or whatever, ideally we wouldn't have to deal with reservations for 2 weeks if we were, if we could manage it, if people just stayed in the pool and covered themselves with sanitation solution, we wouldn't have to do reservations. But I don't know that everyone going will jump in the pool and sanitize themselves. So, but as far as furniture and stuff goes, I think your plan's fine. Phasing it in, starting as soon as possible, I think would be fine, in my opinion, as one board member. And then from a reservation system standpoint, I think if we see problems, or if we have a lack of demand or anything in these windows, it may become more problematic with a week and a half of tenure time before the lift, if that makes sense. But I'll trust you to do what you believe is best.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm open for suggestions. It's again, like I mentioned before, it's kind of a goofy approach with all these guidelines technically still being in place, but it's kind of just a hurry up and wait game till June 2nd, and all the training wheels and everything come off and everything goes back to normal. So, I'm not looking to create any issues or any bad publicity for the township. Just want to kind of act on behalf of everybody in the best way we can. So I'd love to hear anybody else's 2 cents as well as we try to figure out the best way to go about this.
So is there going to be a reservation system in place till June 2nd, then it goes away?
As it currently stands, that is, what is set up is the reservation through Rec Desk is all in place, limited to 425 per time slot. And then, right up, as you said, June 2nd, it all disappears.
Well, last year, we had representatives from all the public pools in Delaware County work together and reviewed all the restrictions and, all the unknowns. And it was a collective decision that, unfortunately was to not open. This year was a complete 180 with the Senate Bill 22 happening in March. And the consensus was that come June, most of these restrictions would be lifted. So with the reservations and all the stuff that we've put a lot of time into, I think we just had a lot of effort by the staff that at the end of the day, I think it was very obvious that none of this was going to be recommended, and our staff, I think, had a great plan to start with that would have saved us a lot of time.
Do you have any recommendations as far as, or you have a position on opening the 1-2 week period that with these restrictions in place? Does anyone have any concern over? We've talked about a few different approaches. Is there a preference towards one or the other?
Do we even need reservations?
I don't. That's what I don't think we should even bother with it, or the furniture for that matter. I just don't. I don't think it makes sense if they're 2 weeks out. It's not like COVID's going to die in 2 weeks. So, at the same time, I understand the frustration in having the staff do the work, but you have to work with the policies, in your planning phase that exist. And we had our discussion in the pool meeting about this date coming at some point. The pool operator did not expect that changes would be made, certainly of this magnitude. And so he had said that of all the pools he's managing, which there's several, they plan to set it and sustain that operation throughout the year. Obviously, with the announcement that came out more recently, being such a drastic shift, it is what it is. And I think each community will have to decide what to do. I don't think personally it's worth the hassle for 2 weeks. I think that if we ask folks to be responsible and make sure they jump in the pool and sanitize themselves on a recurring basis while they're at the pool facility, that will be okay.
Well, we followed the ordinances up to this point. So I'm not comfortable just shifting. I agree with not requiring masks. And I'm not sure staff-wise, Silas, are you prepared for full-on come next Friday?
Well, this Friday is, this Friday 21st. So yeah, we're obviously a few days out. I would say with the preparations, it would be a push, but it's not impossible. Probably just requires to get a couple more hands on deck, if you will, and push forward with that. I think anything's possible. Weather should be good. As long as we have the pieces in place and the hands to do it, we can probably get close to 100% this week if that's the desire of the board.
Can I just say, as a pool member, that are you talking about allowing same day sales too during this 2 week period with no reservations, or would it just be members only those 2 weeks?
I think the agreement this year was that it's residents only, and that the members could buy passes for out of area. And I do believe that we should keep the pool residents only this year, just because it's funded largely by the township and entirely, I guess, by the township.
It's always been residents only for pool passes. Now,
Right.
Same day sales, visitors. That I don't think so.
I think we should have the pool passes be residents only. I'm talking about, and I apologize, I'm talking about the visitor passes. And
Same day passes or, one day sales is kind of,
That's what I'm referring to. I think that they're able to use Rec Desk for those. So the training and the Rec Desk stuff is not all lost. We've got a better grasp on our software, so I don't think that that's a problem. And I believe that the people that bought the annual pool pass can buy day passes or same day passes through their membership. There's a quantity that they're allowed to purchase or what have you. So I'm fine with them, if you live in Orange Township and you want to go to your pool, go to your pool. I don't think that that's it's just, this is just my perspective as one board member. But I do think, as long as we have it as a resident asset this year, it's a nice way for us to minimize any potential issues, but also to, make sure that our residents have a good experience.
I do like though, if, your cousin's in town for the week, I like them to be able to bring him to the pool when they come.
right. And I think just maybe Silas, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that they were going to be selling same day walk-up passes to residents. And I guess, like I said, as a pool member, I would think that as a member, I would have the ability, I would want to make sure I can get in for these next 2 weeks. If we're not gonna have any capacity constraints, then it's not a big deal. So anybody that's a resident should be able to buy a pass, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and if your cousin's there, you buy a pass because you're a resident and your cousin gets to go with you.
Okay, I see. Yes, thank you.
Rec Desk facilitates that. It verifies your residency status. So if you want to pre-buy online or whatever, then, it's more efficient at the front when you come with your passes and what have you. But I don't see any logic in having, and I, if you can't get all the furniture out right now immediately, I don't think that's a big deal. I think the fact that people can go to the pool and not suffocate while they're on their way in and out, and they can not worry about this scheduling, would mitigate the fact that they may have to bring a chair for a couple of days or something like that. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I mean, when there was full pool furniture out, there were times where I went to the pool and there was none. So you had to bring towels and such anyway. I just think that this, I just struggle with the logic again of, that on this specific, I know that's the regulation or whatever, the restriction, but, on this specific date, 2 weeks out, everything's coast is clear and it's been hot enough for, 2 weeks, it's all dead or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I guess I wasn't sure what Ryan was getting at, what his conclusion was. He was talking about,
Same thing as mine is what it sounded like.
Ryan, what were you saying?
In regards to what?
Well, you were talking about how hard everyone worked and meeting all the pool people last year, but I wasn't quite sure I understood what your conclusion was.
There's a lot of time and effort putting into this reservation system and all this, and I think it's pretty obvious all along that these restrictions were going to be dropped in June and none of this was going to be necessary.
Yeah, and that's where I disagreed. We consulted with the right people. We brought them on site, and I don't think anyone foresaw that everything was going to just fall off the way that it did completely. But the reservation system we already owned. We've had it for, in the past as well. And having our staff capable of using it, I don't believe is a loss. I don't think that's any waste at all. I think that setting it up and having an asset that functions and knowledge of how to navigate in our own software is important. I certainly think that there's more than one team member now that can function in that software, and that's important. Financial transactions, the know-how, and maybe the restrictions come back somehow, or we have issues that require us to utilize it. We have trained staff now, so I think it's okay.
Well, I think
Not
one
to-
of the things we probably should ask ourselves, is there any liability by going full capacity before June 2nd?
Yeah, and I think Trustee Taranto, I think we can do that this week. We have a special meeting Wednesday and we have a special meeting Friday. So if there are matters that we need to clarify, we can. We don't have to do that tonight. We can take consensus and immediately remove all the language on masks safely. And then the other two we can get consensus on. The other thing to note with Rec Desk from a reservation standpoint, we can now do everything online too from rooms, which is also part of the discussion we were going to have. I know June 2nd, Mr. Bauer sent a note about the shelter rentals, the room rentals, things like that. So now we can go through and handle all of the financials there, where in the past it was a very manual, painful process. So as I said, I think that the training they received and the know-how in the system will pay dividends in light of that too. And I am fine with that, by the way. So you have my consent as one board member, Mr. Bowers, to do what's necessary to open up the room reservations and such on the 2nd.
Now on the are you talking about the shelters?
And the room rentals, yeah, at the pool, like there's a couple of rooms that folks would rent for parties and stuff like that.
So Silas, in the email that you sent us earlier, you talked about the shelters would be open, but not the township hall meeting room or the community room. And I guess I wanted to ask you about that.
Awesome. Absolutely. Before we jump into that, do I have a consensus from the board to just move forward with regular pool operations beginning on Friday, the 21st then?
Yes.
Me too. I think Trustee Taranto, and there was some concern over the liability, and as of now, I'll give my consent. If we find liability, we can withdraw consent.
Okay. Well, we'll have everything that was originally planned still here. We'll hang on to it in case we have to make an adjustment before Friday. Perhaps it'd be good to wait until we have, all the red flags answered before we put something out to the social media and to our residents and pass holders and everything. But we'll do that.
Like I said, I think you can take the masks off now immediately, but with the rest, we can check tomorrow. We'll still have several hours to get agenda change on that special meeting for Wednesday, so we can handle that in a few seconds if we need to.
Okay. Perfect. We will plan that way then, and just plan for an announcement.
Excuse me, just a couple things. Ms. Tranto, I didn't get your consensus or not.
I'd like to talk to our legal counsel first. You have two of them though, so
But I just want to know if I have you, just for the record.
I'm gonna abstain on that right now.
Okay, and so just so I can circle back around, there was a lot flying around there. The consensus is to open the pool on May 21st without restrictions, and to open facilities. I didn't get a date on the opening facilities.
I think the facilities rental, we were going to do June 2nd. That gives time to set everything up in Rec Desk and all that. So nothing in Township Hall, but all the other rooms and gazebos and all that stuff.
Yeah, and to answer Ms. Taranto's question about that, the consensus from staff is with the uncertainty of offices and shuffling around at the Township Hall, rooms would probably be best served remaining available for township use this year. The community room at North Orange Aquatic Center could be available. There is some stuff in there right now, some leftover COVID stuff and some concessions things with the uncertainty with concessions this year at the pool. It can probably be made ready. One of the concerns that was out there was trying to make sure it was clean in between meetings or in between events or uses, and just trying to make sure we're doing our due diligence, presenting a clean room and making sure everything's taken care of. So there'd be a little bit of adjustment potentially with CPM and staff, but that's something we can revisit, spend a little time on making sure we have everything in order, everything scheduled appropriately through Rec Desk and through our maintenance staff to make sure that everything is good. The one thing I'll add to this as well, in the document I sent earlier today, I also want to include some of the additional shelters that have not been included in the past. So I'd be interested to hear if there's any other feedback regarding those shelters as well.
Do you think at the next trustee meeting, June 7th, that you could have an answer and possibly be ready to open up the community room?
Absolutely. I think that would be a good time frame and give us a little time actually to set everything up. That would probably help tremendously.
Ben, does that sound realistic?
To me, yes.
We have until June 2nd on the other facilities, and then we can ramp up after the 7th meeting on anything else.
Yeah, it allows us time to consider everything that goes into the indoor facilities or indoor facility, the community room at North Orange. Then hopefully, again, for Township Hall, if it's okay with the trustees, staff had recommended that remain closed this year with the
I agree with that.
And speaking of, so we'll seek into the next topic of starting meetings back up, but I noticed that a lot of stuff has been put into the trustee boardroom, the Moffett room. So before we return in person, that's probably something that should be moved, thrown away, something. I think
absolutely. We'll
cabinet
definitely put some time to it.
Okay. So moving on then to June 2nd and talking about returning to the offices, talking about moving to regular in-person trustee meetings. Would you all like to discuss that?
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just wanted to add one last thing before we got completely out of operations. As Ms. Kraft mentioned, there was a purchase order request as well. I didn't know if you wanted to hit that now or circle back around to that before we got away. For Shelley and Sands.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Information on that is this is part of the road levy. This is a project that was approved last July, it looks like, from what I can find. The purchase order amount of 2.7 million and some change is part of the second invoice we've received from the county via Shelley and Sands for the work done on Orange Road. Appears to be widening and signals and several other components. So the purchase order, there was money appropriated, but it doesn't appear that it was ever encumbered to Shelley and Sands. So that is the details for why you have such a significant large purchase order to review.
It's also related to the OPWC disbursement. Is that, was that a grant that we received from the Public Works, Ohio Public Works?
Yes, there was also that and another $50,000 grant, which I believe might have been county related in some capacity. Some of the documentation on this I'm kind of finding in different areas so far, so I truthfully do not have everything discovered yet, if you will, but that appears to be including the OPWC 500,000, I believe it was, and another 50 grand from the county entity. And then 2.7 appears to cover the contract that was signed last July, but I'm also finding some other costs as well that were not expected. There's a water line relocation that was included as well, or was not included as well. So I will get with our fiscal office to fine tune the exact details of where things came from and where they need to be.
Because it says 459,000, but that's 2,776,000. So I was curious.
I'm sorry, say that again about the 400.
It asked for, I'm sorry, I was opening the email. The township will need to pay their portion of the invoice directly to Shelley and Sands, 459,000. But the purchase order on the template here is 2,776,000.
Yes, that's just the current phase or the current work that's been done. So there should be several additional invoices coming throughout the course of the project.
Okay. Okay.
Contracts.
Yeah, and I can send, I've got the breakout from Tiffany if you need it, but yeah, that's 2.7 is what's remaining on the project.
Okay, thank you.
I thought we had approved the PO already.
We approved a PO last year for just that portion of the work that had already been completed. And I think that was from memory, it's like an $800,000 between two different vendors.
Oh, we approved them to do this work. That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
you did
tracking
approve
now.
them to do that work last May, but there was never a PO put in place.
I don't think there's a formal resolution prepared, right?
No, it's in there. It was above fiscal office report. Oh, there it is. It's right on the screen.
Sorry, I must have had I think we're at 170 what? Oh my God. 173.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 21-173. Authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Shelley and Sands.
Second?
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Granto,
Yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
I believe that covers everything on the agenda. Anything I'm overlooking here? We can open the, Trustee Taranto, going back to your question about opening, I think June 2nd would be a good date to return to normal township business and have staff on site.
And June 7th, the June 7th trustee meeting would be in person.
Correct.
So are we all wearing our pajamas to that meeting? Do we have to get back to normal? Pull
Wearing
out the
a nice
nice
shirt and
clothes?
shorts.
Trustees, I have a question on that, and I don't know if I can pass it with our legal counsel too. Since we scheduled our zoning hearings, the resolution did say via Zoom for the ones coming up in June. Is that gonna be an issue? I don't know the answer to that, but
I
So
assume
do you wanna-
June 2nd would stay the same, since I knew that it had already gone out. How many others had already gone out?
well, the sheets
Approved
is
them.
7th, yeah.
Sheets is on the
Was-
2nd, so that's correct?
I'm sorry. The second is the independent living on South Old State, and Sheets is on June 7th.
Okay.
And you all just scheduled June 17th for a zoning hearing too.
Sheets is on June 7th. I thought it was a off day.
No, that was regularly scheduled.
Okay, so we've got two of them on the 7th now.
Well, I'm sorry. So this June 2nd is a special meeting that's on for the independent living at South Old State. June 7th is the Sheets hearing. And then June 21st is the McReady single family that
Right. Okay. And we scheduled that's in the resolution as virtual, but we can strike that now because we're still in the meeting, I think. So we'll have to have the others. Yeah, June 21st would have to be our first in-person meeting then,
The
because
June,
we've already,
the June 17th, I apologize. When was the June 17th one scheduled?
No, I might have said that wrong. So it's June 2nd, independent living, June 7th is Sheets, and then June 21st is the McReady single family.
Oh, okay.
so June 21st, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I would advise the board to at least do it to the 21st because I did publish the notices for the second via Zoom. I had to do that.
So July 19th will be our first in-person. All right. Sounds good. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Make a motion to approve resolution 21-174, meeting adjournment.
Second.
Mr. Grumbles,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes.
Meeting
Have a point.